I should mention overnight, there's a new location of the Republican National Convention that was finalized, Jacksonville, Florida. Tell me about it.
That's right. It moved from Charlotte, North Carolina. As a reminder, the president pulled the event from Charlotte because he did not want to abide by the state's social distancing rules. He wanted a big event, a packed event. Now, overnight, the New York Times reporting the new date is going to coincide with the 60th anniversary of something called Axe Handle Saturday. That's when the Ku Klux Klan attacked mostly black civil rights protesters. Now, it's not clear the RNC knew that when choosing the location and the date. We reached out to both the RNC and the White House, and Savannah, so far, no response.
What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now.
This morning, hundreds of people in Seattle occupying a now abandoned police precinct.
What do we want? Justice. When do we want it?
The takeover coming after the Seattle Police Department abruptly surrendered the building after weeks of clashing with protesters. Now boarded up and abandoned, the building is renamed the Seattle People Department.
We should set up a national use of force standard. If they don't sign on to it, then in fact they don't get any of the federal money. In addition, that they have to demonstrate that they release all the data that relates to misconduct by police. That all has to be sent to the Justice Department. If they don't send it to the Justice Department nationally, they don't get funding. But as it relates to, for example, mental illness and homelessness and drug abuse and the like, many changes we can make.
We're working to finalize an executive order that will encourage police departments nationwide to meet the most current professional standards for the use of force, including tactics for de-escalation. Also, we'll encourage pilot programs that allow social workers to join certain law enforcement officers so that they work together.
I'm Barry Gordon.
I'm Andre Coleman.
Slow Andre Coleman. And this is NewsRap, live at 5.
The home edition.
I think you buffered at exactly the wrong time.
That's what I think happened.
I think that's what happened.
Exactly.
All of a sudden, it was like dead.
Yeah. But over here, I was right behind you. But
you were
over
just
there,
smiling, and we weren't hearing anything.
And not moving, right?
Yeah.
How you doing, man?
Crazy. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Another Friday at home.
Yeah, actually, had my first dine-in meal last weekend with another couple.
Where'd you go?
Through all of the proper social distancing steps. We went to El Portal. We sat outside.
Great restaurant.
A very long table. So it was like we were probably 8 feet away from the other couple. I mean, it was great.
Okay.
Or at least 6. So yeah, it was a nice experience. I'll let you know in a couple of weeks if that I do or don't have COVID. But you know,
start showing up. If guest hopes started showing up on your end, then we know we have an idea.
Right. Or nurses, one or the other. So we'll see.
Nurses.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But okay.
Hey, so you won't be going to that spot in Pasadena they closed down. So
no, I didn't hear. What is that? Tell me about that.
One of the nursing homes, de-licensed. Mass evacuation this morning.
Wow. You're talking about, what is it, Garden Cross?
I think it's Golden Cross.
Golden Cross. Well, I turned it into a garden. What the heck?
All the same, right?
No, not all the same. I should have said Golden Cross.
Hey, James Farr wants to know where my mood music is.
Where is your mood music? Yeah.
Let me cue something up. Just keep going.
All right.
So go ahead, Barry.
Okay. So So we see that James is commenting, so we want to invite all of you to comment and join the parade and join the conversation. And I don't know how much longer we're going to be doing this in a socially distanced way or a remote way. We might get into the studio fairly soon now. We'll see. With a long table and a lot of plexiglass between me and Dre. But we'll figure it out. But in the meantime, we're here. And I definitely want to thank the crew for their great, again, cold open, wonderful, wonderful work. So we're having a good time. We're having fun. So Trump, okay. He's gonna have part of his convention. Let me see if I understand, in North Carolina, and then part of it in Jacksonville, and then he's going to accept the nomination on Axe Handle Saturday.
That's the gist of it, from what I understand.
Is he just plain crazy? I mean, what is he trying to accomplish?
You know what? I think you nailed it earlier. He's just flailing before we came on the air. You said he's just kind of flailing now. And I think now he's just looking for a handle on anything.
Well, he's flailing, but
out of the middle of the storm.
But he's flailing with consistency.
Yes,
because both of his events are on key days for the Black community.
Yep.
Now, I don't think he's going to have his stadium full of Black people. Maybe he will.
No,
maybe
won't.
That'll be the big surprise.
No, he won't. He won't.
So look, what is he trying to accomplish?
Look, Trump's problem, this is the consistent Trump problem. Even though his actions are inconsistent, the problem has been consistent. He has not once, since he's been elected, attempted to create new voters for himself.
No.
It's always appeasing to the same crowd that put him in office. Going back to the racists, going back to good people on both sides, all these things. He is trying to fire up that base. That's what's going on now.
Yeah, but the problem is that according to the polls, you've got, I mean, I didn't think I would see this. You've got huge majorities who are supporting the protesters.
Yeah.
Huge majorities. And majorities that are looking for genuine police reform, and majorities that are against police brutality. And so since you have that, his base is what? A third of the people?
Well, about that, yeah. But look, here's the issue. Those people are resonating because the system, the people who are looking at the system, a supermajority are going, look, on the top of that system is a racist and a bigot and an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
They see it. They know it. So they're going, we can't expect him to bring help to us. So we've got to stay in the streets. People are going into the streets again tonight. And I didn't think it would go this long, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, it's
that's because they're going, look, no help is coming from the system. In the past, when you had moments like LA, during other riots across the country, people at least looked to Washington and went, okay, they probably want to at least try to do something and listen. They don't believe he's even going to listen. And his actions say so. Look what he did when he needed the church for his weird photo op. And I've never even seen anybody hold a Bible like that before.
No. Now, what is your thinking about what's going on in Seattle? Taking over the police precinct. Just to explain to folks. Yeah.
When we and make sure, just correct me and educate me if I have it wrong. But when we get to these moments of is that a defunding moment or what is that? Explain it to me just to make sure I got it right.
Oh, well, the police precinct, there's a police precinct in Seattle that apparently was abandoned by the police.
Okay.
So protesters have moved in there. And they're calling it an autonomous zone.
Oh, yeah. Okay. The autonomous zone.
The autonomous zone.
I know what the words mean, but I don't know what that is, so to speak, is what I'm saying. Look, we are always going to have some form of police.
Yeah.
And if the idea becomes getting away from police departments, I don't care who's in charge. I don't care how it's done. I don't care the money funded to it. You are always going to have, at some point, part of it will become abusive again. It's just the nature of what happens.
Yeah.
C2P Williams, let me just put that out there for people who have questions about him and how that went, because that's originally what he was trying to do. It was, hey, we'll police our own neighborhood. And then look where it ended up, decades later. I have no problem with taking money from police departments and putting on into other social programs and projects where it would be needed. In other words, a cat is stuck in a tree. Why is a cop responding?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So those things I have no issues with. But in an autonomous zone, what does that mean? Does that mean I can't get stopped for a ticket there? Does that mean black people can do whatever they want there?
Well, I don't think we know. I mean, if you just look at the optics, I mean, Trump is calling it a terrorist attack, basically, and wants to send in the army under the Insurrection Act of 1883 or whatever it is. And then you look at the pictures and it kind of looks a lot like a block party. I mean,
that's what I thought.
There are food trucks and they're moving in food trucks.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't see were bands, but there probably are bands there too. So
was it like one of those 60s free loving society?
It might be, yeah.
Things?
It might be. So it didn't certainly look angry.
Yeah. Dan wants to know, what does flailing actually mean anymore? I think it means what it meant before. I don't think the definition has really changed.
No, the definition has.
In this case, it means losing badly. Yeah.
But we have a great example. We have a great example of flailing almost every day and we've had it for the last 4 years, and
Yeah.
So I'm coming to the conclusion that, and I could be wrong, but I'm really coming to the conclusion that Trump is seeing the end of the road, as it were, because I just don't see how he recovers from virtually everything unless he pulls off some kind of unbelievable miracle. Unless he does come up with a perfect police reform plan,
he won't, because the two issues
he can't. His base will leave him.
Right. And the two issues that have hit him recently are issues that are uncompromising and unforgiving.
Yeah.
And that's race and a pandemic. And the pandemic will not stop, as we're seeing now, with spikes across the country.
And I want to talk to you a little more about that. We're going to go to the local brief, and the local brief has a COVID update.
All right.
Among some other stories. So I do want to talk to you about a couple of stories in the local brief. Let's go to that.
Stay tuned.
This is your local news brief for Friday, June 12th, 2020. The city of Pasadena reports 1,023 confirmed coronavirus cases, an 80 case increase from last week. With only one additional virus-related death since last week, the death toll is now at 84. The Pasadena Convention Center's auxiliary hospital will be closed at the end of the month. The temporary transition was made in April, in case the Huntington Memorial Hospital reached capacity treating COVID-19 patients. Parking enforcement has begun issuing warnings to vehicles in violation. Actual citations will begin on June 16th. The Pasadena City Council approved a $1 million program to help up to 220 low-income households repay rent accumulated through the eviction moratorium. The program, funded by the CARES Act, will cap each household at $4,500. Residents have voiced concern over how the capped amount would not be enough for average rent prices. Others have pushed for rent forgiveness over rent repayment. During Monday night's City Council meeting, Mayor Terry Tornick reiterated that the council does not have the authority to impose rent forgiveness. Pasadena's City Housing Director, Bill Huang, acknowledged that the cap amount wasn't enough to cover everything and said, "We're hoping it will go a significant way." Average rent for a two-bedroom residence in Pasadena is currently about $2,500 a month. Golden Cross Healthcare on North Fair Oaks Avenue was evacuated Thursday night by order of the state attorney general. Multiple news outlets report that the decision is based on lack of patient care, as well as the facility's response to COVID-19. According to a Pasadena Star News article, an email from the city manager to the city council Thursday states that the California Department of Public Health has served Golden Cross attorneys with a temporary suspension order and accusation to revoke their license to operate. Representatives Mary Gay Scanlon and Adam Schiff have presented a resolution to protect journalists and keep the centrality of press freedom. According to an official statement on Scanlon's House of Representatives webpage, the resolution backs Congress's support for the First Amendment right that allows journalists to report without fear of physical harm or arrest. Schiff is quoted in the statement as saying, "Journalists are being assaulted, tear-gassed, detained, and arrested on American soil, and black reporters are even more at risk." Recent protests, sparked by the murder of George Floyd, have led to the harassment, injury, or arrest of journalists even after showing their press credential.
So, Dre.
All right.
Adam now has this press protection bill that we just heard a little bit about. Is that basically to protect the press physically?
As opposed to what?
Protect their rights, protect their...
Yeah, it is. Because, you have to understand. I mean, we still live in this moment, and I faced this before, where you get to a police scene and they've set up the tape close by, and you get there and they realize who you are, and suddenly they tell you to go back a block even further. They're threatening to arrest you because you're standing at the tape, looking around, asking questions and those kind of things. Mm-hmm. Look, we just saw a black reporter on CNN, or a reporter of color.
We sure did.
Arrested. Yeah. While white reporters stood around.
Yeah.
So that bias that we're talking about, it exists in how police and how government and how others deal with the media and the press. So yes, our rights need to be protected too, from physical harm. I have every right to go out in a curfew and do my job. Mm-hmm. See, if there's a riot going on or there's a protest going on, even if they say, everybody go home, I have the right to stay on the street. They cannot bar my access, is what I'm saying. So at these points, this is when, media needs to protect it. You can't just start attacking members of the press. Now, my big question about this bill is, what are we calling the press? Who's a reporter and who's not? That's what's got to get ironed out.
I see. Okay. So in other words, you don't want to include amateur journalists, or?
I don't know what an amateur journalist is. I mean,
okay.
If you're in college and you are studying journalists, you're a reporter as far as I'm concerned, and you have every right to be out there. Mm-hmm. But does it cover a guy who has a blog? Does it cover a guy who's holding up his cell phone? Is he a reporter now? Or is he a guy holding up a cell phone? So these are things that have to be ironed out. Now, this guy holding up the cell phone, he should have, I would say he should have extra rights in the moment you can't tell them to stop taping. If there's a public event going on, can you tell them to follow a curfew? Yes. But can you tell them to stop taping in that moment? Not necessarily, no.
And you don't want him or her to stop taping because that could be evidence. I mean, so
exactly.
you
Not
definitely
at all.
don't want that.
Not at all. I think more people should take more events and should learn how to handle their phones quicker, kind of thing.
Well, I think a lot of these events wouldn't be known if there weren't. I mean, obviously the George Floyd would.
The protests in the streets
but
now.
A lot of events would not be known if they weren't covered by citizen journalists.
And that's what's key here, because as you see these people protesting, ask this: how many incidents aren't being taped?
Mm-hmm.
How many incidents are never ever heard about? One name that does not come up when CNN lists, and Cuomo and these guys list the names of people killed by the police, and MSNBC has done it several times. Have you heard the name Kendrick McDade?
I think so.
I haven't on CNN one time. So there are thousands of events probably that you and I are not. We don't even know the kids' names.
Yeah.
Or the person's name. So. That's what it is.
So how does this work, though? Is it a federal mandate on the states?
The law?
Yeah.
It would be, yes.
And do you have any idea how it functions? I mean,
I do not. I saw the press release earlier this week, and we ran a story on it, and I had several questions. The first one means, what are we talking about rights? I mean, what do we mean by rights? What do we mean by protection? Does it mean that if I go stand out in the street during a riot, because it says that my rights have to be protected, and I'm being harassed, do the police have to stop that cop or person who's harassing me? Because that's a right I already have. So what are we talking about? I just think it needs to be defined a little more, is what I'm saying.
Well, James Farr is saying that each city could have a registry and issue a permit.
Yeah, but what if they decide that James Farr, who hosts the conversation live, is not a journalist?
Yeah.
The city shouldn't get to decide who's a journalist. Neither should the federal government and Donald Trump, because, look, he's going to say that all of us are bad. We have to identify what reporting is what I think is key here. What is reporting? Is reporting posting to YouTube? Is reporting posting to a set outlet's audience? I see Dan's comments on citizen journalism have turned the whole tide in journalism. That's not true at all. Because if you tape something on YouTube, I guarantee you, if the George Floyd thing never made it to CNN, MSNBC, or Fox, you could have 1,000 people with cell phones taping. It wouldn't do anything. It's got to make it to a major outlet on TV for it to resonate with people. So citizen journalism has its place, but it still has to float up to TV, which is still where all the eyes are, for it to make a difference.
And even if all the eyes aren't there, the political eyes are there.
The political eyes are there. Exactly. So, let's put it this way. Joe Biden didn't go and visit with this family because he got a copy of this videotape of this cell phone footage in his email. He saw it on TV. His aides made it aware of, hey, take a look at what's going on NBC or CNN or whatever. And that's where the masses are. It's always been that way. And even the original movement with going back to the 3 civil rights workers, going back to Emmett Till, these things turned on television, moved these things forward.
Sure. Well, I hope it does something. It's just not clear to me what it's supposed to do. And I think I'm going to have to do more research on it to try to find that out. Because when I read about it and even saw the little clip that we had today on the cold open, on the local brief, it's still not clear to me, is it a liability thing? Is it if they tear gas? That's what it seemed to be part of. If they tear gas a a reporter. And I guess they know that it's a reporter somehow because, and that's where I think your definition is going to come in. My guess is that they're talking about people with film crews.
Right.
Where,
they're talking about TV people.
They're
not
probably talking
with,
about TV people. Yeah.
They're not talking about a guy with a tablet in his hand. And that's where we run into trouble. What I think the conversation needs to be around is access.
Mm-hmm.
Access. Because, you know, even though I have the right to be on the street during a curfew, and Pasadena was very clear, and LA County was very clear during their curfew that journalists had a right to be out there and do their job, even during the state lockdown.
Right.
Newsom was very clear. I had the right to. I'm essential. However, that doesn't mean that a cop who stops me is going to follow that rule.
Mm-hmm.
He may still arrest me. What recourse do I have after that is where we need to get to. So what recourse do I have once I prove I'm a journalist and I'm still arrested? What's the recourse and what's the penalty for him? Is it a felony for them to hold me after I prove I'm a journalist? That's where we get to.
Yeah. So are you getting ready to go out?
Right now? Tonight?
No, I mean, is it time?
Nah, it's not time for me still.
Not according to the numbers, it isn't. And I just don't quite understand what we're doing opening up quite this soon when we're still on the rise in the state of California.
California had the most cases reported in one day yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. And we'll have to talk about why don't we go and come back to Facebook because people are still commenting, and we can talk a little bit about Uncle Joe too.
Yeah, let's
All right. We'll be right back with Facebook for a few minutes. I'm Barry Gordon.
I'm Andre Coleman. I was right behind you.
This is News. You sure were this time. This is NewsRap live at 5. Stay with us. We're going to go to, well, not Studio B. We're still at home.
Not Studio B.
But,
There is no Studio B.
All right. Roll the closer.